Hello everyone, we're out on a trip again. It's really nice to be out on such a beautiful day.
We left Edinburgh last night actually and came over the bridge and we just stopped at a place called Autumnal, which we haven't been to before.
It's right by the Forth and the day is incredibly sunny. It's lovely to be out on a sunny day, but it's not so good for painting. Painting is best done where there's a bit of cloud and there's less blue, and you can see how blue the sky is behind us. It's really blue. There's so many lovely little spots in Fife. It's a beautiful county, one of the nicest counties, and the coastline on the south part of it is particularly gorgeous.
Yeah, there have been a lot of walkers going past us this morning who are on the Fife coastal walk.
Yeah, there's a long walk around the Fife coast, but we haven't done that. That's a real epic walk, that one. We'll spin round. You can see Edinburgh's behind us. It's a bit sunny at the moment, so I'm not sure whether you can see us.
I think that's a helicopter flying over.
It looks like I've got a halo. It was my sainthood coming back. There's something about the blue day which I'm not so fond about in terms of doing a broad landscape, but it's good for a little detailed picture, maybe some boats or something. So we're going to have a look for some boats and see whether I can capture an interesting scene with it. We've arrived at a place called Pettycur, is that right, Tanya?
Pettycur, it always makes me laugh, that name.
Pettycur.
Yeah, just before Kingshorn.
Yeah, there's a lovely harbour here, and I thought we might have a go at a little boat or something like that. It's a very blue sky at the moment too. I'm never fond of painting in blue skies.
We've roasted, got quite a heat up here in the camper van. We've just had lunch and a cup of tea, and
it's been so nice.
We had to open the window.
It's been so nice sitting in the camper van.
Lovely.
We're almost slightly sleepy. Now we've got to go out and do some painting, but I'm looking forward to it, but what I'm going to do is a small scale painting, and maybe two paintings, I don't know yet. We'll find out when I start. Some lovely little boats in the harbour, small boats. Very cute little harbour. It's nice, isn't it?
It is. It's very small, yeah. It's not that big.
So,
but James has got a new toy.
I've got a new toy.
I'm going to show you this.
There we go.
Because I think a few people have mentioned, when James has said about the watercolour painting not drying, why don't you get a heater?
So we've got a heater.
Here is the heater.
So it's a gas heater. So it's on a little butane thing here. So if it doesn't dry, then we can have a go at using this thing. And it's going to be an interesting test. I don't know how it's going to work. I think it's going to work myself. So Hopefully we'll solve the problems of painting in the winter when nothing dries. Great, we're all ready to head off, and it's just a short walk across the car park, so it couldn't be easier.
You're not taking me up a mountain this time, are you?
Not
Carrying
today.
all the gear?
I will do though. Don't worry, Tanya, I will. So here's the harbour scene, and you can see it's lovely. Really small harbour, but that's what makes it really quite intimate. And the boats are tiny as well, which are really nice to paint too. No massive ships here. I think those boats over there look really pretty. They look nice too. So we'll just work out which ones we're going to do and then set up. So I think here's the scene that I'm going to paint. Maybe these two boats here. The tide's going up, so one of the things about painting boats in the harbour is that the water goes up and down all the time, so you have to be pretty quick to stop that massive change of scene. The colours are nice too, so I'll try a really small one, maybe a 6x4 or 7x5 painting, and see how that goes. But yeah, I think it's an interesting scene. So we've all set up, and I've chosen a 7x5" piece of paper, so nice size. As you can see, I've got a change of easel as well. My tripod I've changed, so it's a much smaller one because we're going to be walking much more. So I've made up a new board as well, so that's all different. So just to try and make things a little bit more lightweight. But the scene we've got is great. That's a really lovely scene there, and I'm just going to do a little section of it. Maybe these two boats here. So I'll get along with the drawing and then get straight into it. Remember, the drawing is never too complicated. You don't want to draw out every dot and comma. You just want to give a sort of broad shape and sort of idea of the perspective, but nothing too complicated. This is going to be a really interesting painting because of the scale of it. So my brushes are becoming a bit smaller. So I'm using, to begin with, a 10mm mop brush, Winsor and Newton brush, because I think that's going to be about the right size for this picture. Remember, there is a phrase in art saying, big brush, big area, little brush, little area. So it's a sort of small painting, so the brush size does get smaller. So I'm going to start, as usual, with at the top, just so it runs down. And I'm always trying to keep in mind what sort of painting I'm going to try and produce. I'm not going to produce a tight painting, I'm going to produce a loose painting. So I'm trying to abbreviate the detail and to simplify. Right, so at the top there's a lot of reflection of the buildings and the bank behind. So I'm going to go for a sort of raw sienna colour initially, and maybe a sort of raw umber colour, because there's a lot of reflections at the top. So reflections of there's a sort of brown wall and all sorts going on there. So just trying to get these. One of the great fun parts of painting watercolour is the depiction of the sea and water. If you can get that right, then that's a real great achievement. That's nice. And then down, it's a sort of bluey greeny colour. So I'm going to put a little bit of Veridian in there. That's a bit of Veridian. But I'm going to make it lighter, so a bit of Cobalt as well. Never trying to mix everything up too much. And it's getting the right tone as well. So here goes. Get the right tone in. And I don't want to paint every dot and comma on this. My style is very much a loose style, and I don't want to have one part more detailed than another part. I find that's a really important thing to remember. So I want to have a sort of unified feeling about it. So this is the first layer. So I'm keeping in mind what's to come. So I'm sort of cutting out the boats a bit at the moment, sort of feeling that the boats are going to appear because the background's being placed in. Then there's a sort of yellower green in this section here. It's the first time I've really used this brush, but I think it's a nice brush to use for this type of small painting. I tend to paint in layers of paint. Some people try and paint in one go, so one, maybe 2 layers. But I quite like a few more than that. The great exponent of the 2-layer method was Edward Wesson. He did some marvellous pictures with very, very simple palette and simple system really. He just painted it and left it. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to go into the darker section. So it's quite dark, that area at the bottom right. So there's a sort of bluish, greenish colour, very dark, because there's the shadow from the harbour coming into these. And I'm trying to be careful of the reflection of the boat. It's always an interesting question where to start a painting. So there's this sort of shadow coming in from the harbour wall. And one of the other interesting things about painting, and which is a little bit depressing as well, is that paintings look so bad for so long. You really have to have a little bit of faith that it's going to be all right, and it will be all right, hopefully. So I'm going to move into the boats now, and this is where the picture comes together, I think. So a little bit of the sort of bluey greeny colour. So I'm imagining a bit of Veridian, maybe a bit of hooker's green, and maybe a bit of blue in there. So this is this boat coming in here. You've always got to keep in mind the white sections to leave them out. So here we go. That's quite nice. Maybe a little bit bluer, add a bit more Veridian to it. Yep. Then at the back it's a bit darker, so I'm going to blue it up a bit more. Maybe a bit of ultramarine and burnt umber. And I'm going to place that in the back. Change the colour. Trying to paint it as simply as I can. It's always a challenge. And then we're going to go into the water. And then into the reflection of the boat in the water. That's pretty. I like that. And then we have the dark reflection of the back of the boat. So a bit of Veridian, ultramarine blue, nice and dark, but a little bit lighter than the actual back of the boat. A bit too dark. That's fun. And have some more. It's always that you always got to wait for the right time to put it down. You don't want it merging with the parts around it. Right, now we've got the little bit of the other part of the boat. So we're going to try and describe the actual inside of the boat now. So a little bit of blue. Remember, this part is in shadow of the boat, so always try and depict the shadowy parts as blue. It's because it is a bluer colour. Maybe a little bit of brown. So there's a sort of, and then the base of the boat. So keeping it simple. And then now the back of the boat, which is there's some whiter parts to it. That's a good start to it. Trying to keep it loose as well. That's part of what I find really enjoyable with painting. Okay, so I let that dry for a bit. Now we're going to try and attack the other boat. Now inside the boat it's quite grey, so burnt umber and blue. It's not a white colour. A lot of painting really is the picking of values, trying to get these values right. It's always the challenge. If you can get the values right, you can really describe a shape very easily. Then a darker value. Just simplify that area. Imagine there's some stuff inside it. I'm going to the border of this boat is quite dark, So I'm going to mix up some quite dark ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Remember, this is a quick painting. It's not a long-winded painting, so I don't want it to take too long. Yep, that's all right. Now lighter dark. There's a lot of reflection on the top part of this boat. Now for the yellow. Incredibly bright yellow. That's on the side of this boat. Not too sure how it's going to mix. Really bright patch there. Along with the sort of reflected area here. Trying to keep, you know, an idea of what's coming ahead. Okay, now I'm going to make it a transparent yellow now. Okay, so still going for the side of the boat. Trying to make a sort of darker yellow. And then the other side of the boat it magically becomes a little bit lighter. There's some reflected light somewhere. Again, it's just picking out those changes in colour and tone. Right. Just because the painting is smaller doesn't change the complexity of it really. So now we're going to go down to the water line. And then the yellow comes in. I'm going to make it look like there's ripples in the water. I think that sort of does. More yellow. So the reflection of this side of the boat. But because the painting's so small, I don't want to make it too complicated. Okay, we head off into the other boat. Paint a little cubby hole. Darkness underneath the boat. Yeah, that's right. And again, the sort of feeling that there's water. Okay, so I'm going to head into the shadows now a bit more. There's a lot of shadow of these boats, which will knock down the tone of the painting quite a lot. So let's try and get those in. It's the shadow of the harbour wall. And it goes right towards the left as well of it. So these are much darker areas. We're trying to let some of the light shine through these little bits. That was quite nice really, because it sort of brought out that boat a bit more, silhouetted it, which I think is quite important. Okay, we're going to go into the top section now with the same idea really, of trying to get these waves really. Trying to keep an idea of what's below, trying to keep that reflection in from far away. Now I'm going to go into the reflection of the boat, the yellow boat, at the plimsoll line. There's so many things to paint when you paint boats. It's a very complicated subject. It's a dark, really dark patch. My go-to dark is ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Yeah, that's nice. Trying to get the shape of that boat. I think that's done quite nicely. Just touching one or two details is such an important part of it. Amazing how one or two touches of colour and detail bring out a shape. So we've got to get the other boat in now, the top left-hand corner boat. Very ultramarine blue. That's a nice colour. My favourite colour is ultramarine blue. A bit of brown. Darker colour for the reflection. I'm just going to try and describe what's inside the boat now. There's a little box, which I'm just going to hint at. It's a bric-a-brac inside it, and I don't really want to depict it all. There's a sort of front. Just trying to get as much as I need to get in there, really. Don't want to depict everything. Then you have there's a few sort of rails, which I think would be quite nice to put in. These are always some of the trickier paintings to do, a complicated picture simply. It's a rail. So again, now we have to go into this boat just to try and get the detail. Trying to capture what's inside, which is important. Getting these finer details in. We'll have some white paint on it as well later on. And the shadow of the rails. Yeah, it's coming on. Pictures look so bad for so long. That's one of the fascinating parts about paintings, and you have to have that faith that it will be okay. Just need a little bit of darkness. If you see here, what's going to bring this out, the bow of the boat, is a little bit of darkness. So let's get a little bit of blue there, a little there. That's just a question of getting this the right tone. There we go. And then we're going to pop this here, and that will bring out the boat. Just need that little bit of darkness behind. Okay, so let that dry for a bit. So I'm just going to give the boat here a little bit of shadow coming in, because it's not all in direct light. Give it the sense that there's something over here casting a shadow. Well, that's pretty good. I'm going to put some colours in the background up here. This is cerulean blue, just to give a bit of interest up here. That's quite nice. Right, let that dry. So it's back to the last moments really, which is the white paint. Almost the last moments, a few more things after that, but this white paint is particularly important because it sort of gives an idea of the reflections of things, especially with water. Water is a lovely medium for the use of white paint. Reflection here. That's nice. And also to get some of the bluer colours. So that's in the water, so we use a bit of white paint for that too. Maybe just a few hints of something else there. which I think is quite nice. The reflections of the sky or something. More intense blue. Some people believe that watercolour is a sort of pure medium and it shouldn't be, you shouldn't add white to it, but I don't think so. For me, I like a bit of white paint. Just enlivens it a bit. That's something, I feel. That's nice. And then there's a little white buoy, which I'm going to try and get. A bit of pure white. It's just to capture the things that you couldn't really do with the leaving in reserve. Yeah, that's nice. So, but the last thing I've got to do, I can find a nice small brush for this, is to do the little cables or the ropes that's attached to the boats. So burnt umber, I think, or raw umber. Cable here, and there. Oh, there's a bit of white in here too. So cable from there, and then there's a cable from that boat from here. It was a bit thick. I could have done with a thinner brush. Right, okay, I think that's it. Yeah, that seems fine to me. So here's the painting. It's a little picture. It's 7 by 5 inches on Fabriano Artistico paper, £140. And I've tried to keep it loose, and I've tried to keep the sea sort of fresh here. There was a sort of reflection at the top which I think worked. There was a big bank behind it, and that worked. And trying to keep it loose and fresh so that you can finish it. We want to go outside and finish the picture. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. I thought it was a lot of fun to do. I'm enjoying these little paintings. They're less onerous on me really, and you get a really quick response and a quick painting done. There's that sort of feeling of reward from it, which I quite like. I thought I'd say a special hello to Heinrich in Germany for his very generous donations on Buy Me a Coffee. It's very kind of you. It does help. It does help with all the diesel costs and wandering around Scotland, which is a sort of big, small country. It seems to be a long way around, but it really does help. So thank you very much for that. Apart from that, I hope you enjoyed all that, and I hope you got some inspiration to get outside, even if it's in the garden, just to make that first move to get out and get that courage and belief that you can do it going within yourself. And the more you do it, the more you'll be at ease with doing it. So until next time, thanks very much for watching. If you can subscribe, that'd be great, or thumbs up, or make a comment, that'd be wonderful. Until then, see you later. Bye bye.